comedian Dave Chapelle is once again in the center of controversy. Welcome, guys. You are on GAN-TV. I have my friend with me, Mr. Gustavo Vela, to help me, talk about this controversial. And Dave, you are welcome, my friend. First of all, welcome. You know, we're all into this country. It's been a while. Everybody's talking about it. How you been doing, my friend?
Really well. I'm anxious to talk and see what perspectives the audience may want to offer in the form of questions, and also eager to offer my humble perspective as to Dave Chapelle and the nature of comedians.
Yeah, you know, Dave is no stranger to controversy. This time it looks like, so folks are very upset with him. And I believe you did have a chance to, this is all over the news. You have a chance to watch the special on Netflix. What is your first impression about what's going on right now? Do you understand the reaction, the backlash? What are your take on it?
Well, first of all, I think we all need to first take a deep breath and exhale. Secondly, remember, we're also in the midst of a pandemic. People are dying. People are being hospitalized. Some people they're uncertain as to whether or not they'll actually be able to go back to work in person or via Zoom. As much as I love doing the Zoom thing, I also like to be able to see people and talk to Bobby and Mike and Kwame and all the other folks that you see in person. So, but with regard to Dave Chapelle, I think people should also realize too that Dave Chappelle is a bit of a redemptive story. Remember, he fell off the earth for about 2 or 3 years or wherever when he's out in South Africa and had his breakdown and no one really knew. So he has reconstituted himself to now be in a position to make jokes. Comedians are people who talk in who's talking satirical tones. With regard, and I having lived in LA from 1990 to 2007, having gone to the Comedy Store and the Laugh Factory, I kind of understand the psychopathology of comedians. And to tell you off the record, just between you and me, for the most part, I find that comedians are really sad, lonely, and dejected folks in general. This is based upon my 17 years of being around all sorts of comedians. But that being said, what Dave Chapelle said, I think, first of all, we live in the United States of America. People are free to express themselves in any form or fashion, but they must also be willing to accept the responsibility that comes with positions that might be contrary to the public. I think progressives need to not be so quick to cancel. I think there's a room for forgiveness. I think that Dave Chappelle, in comparison to John Gruden, there's no comparison. And I just hope that when all is said and done, that Netflix and all the people surrounding Dave Chappelle and the trans community can sit down as adults and see where we all can learn from all perspectives. There's no one right answer, and people are so quick to push the cancel button. And cancel for what? Cancel and you never hear from the guy again for life? Cancel if you can't make a living again? Cancel. And so I'm a bit hesitant about people canceling people when there's a desire to want to maybe grow. In this case, he stays his position. That's fine. I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but I support his ability to speak his truth from his reality.
Well, it looks like you're not the only person who stand by Dave Chappelle. I mean, the latest news that I have, I don't know if there's any update to this, but we have learned that Netflix stands by Dave Chappelle. Although there was some kind of a reaction to what happened, but it looks like they stand behind him. This is this guy is a genius. So I don't believe that it will come on or have a show with the intention of trying to hurt somebody. Mm-hmm. But if you look, this man work. I mean, from the start. Nobody's immune to his comedy. Am I right?
That's true.
He makes fun of a minority.
He's an offender.
Yeah, but sometimes I once on the first side, it looks like the objective here is to offend, but I do believe ever since I watched this guy, it looks like he uses comedy to bring about what we have right now. He purposely want us to be able to talk about things that nowadays is taboo. Because I'm gonna be playing some clips here to put stuff in perspective.
Mhm.
Because if Dave Chappelle can be in trouble, who
Yeah.
are we not to be in trouble? So, but it's a we live in a society where we have to be extremely careful about
And I,
the way.
and for the record, Malik, I want to say I stand by Dave Chappelle's ability and anyone's ability to say what they want as long as it's not injurious, doesn't incite violence. We live in a free democratic society, and whatever his viewpoints on the trans, I have no opinion as to the trans community, but with regard to his specific ability to speak his piece freely and without fear of any kind of violence coming to him.
But what is it exactly? I know I'm gonna play a clip, but you watching the all a special. Is there any portion of that special out that you were like you were like, oh geez, that this is gonna create some violence against this particular community?
Yeah. Well, I do
Do you have
know.
a sense? Do you have a sense that whatever you said can be detrimental or can be very dangerous for the for the community? For the what you call for gays and lesbian and the transgender in particular.
Yeah, well, I know, first of all, I know that there has been, from what I've read and what I've heard, there's been a real targeting of the African American trans community. They seem to feel unprotected, unsafe. And I'm not sure if Mr. Chappelle was narrowly tailoring his thing towards Black trans or just the trans. He talked about Caitlyn Jenner, who he basically said he remembers Caitlyn Jenner as Bruce Jenner. And I remember I got my interest in track and field by watching Bruce Jenner in the 1976 Olympics and was able to go on and be coached by someone who was Bruce Jenner's peer. So it's one of these scenarios where I am very hesitant, particularly coming from countries like you and I, you from Gabon, me from Equatorial Guinea, where speech is stifled, people are thrown in prison and sometimes murdered for simply being critical of a government or a person. So we're not there yet, but given the events of January 6th and the 4 years that we had before, you're going to find anyone who has an opportunity to take a bit of a morsel of a snippet from a hour-long series or however long it was to say, well, here, well, Dave Chappelle said it. Well, since when is Dave Chappelle the expert on trans community or anything? He's a comedian who gets paid to talk about controversial issues with the intent, I think, of wanting people to bring together. None of these guys are experts. None of these guys are social scientists. They're just out there speaking their mind and comedic form, and some people might find it not so funny.
Well, I think this is probably the time where I might just play a clip, and we can just go along and try to make some sense because you watched it maybe 1 or 2 days ago. You probably don't remember exactly what this man said. I think it will be fair for us to listen some of these words on it, and then trying to make sense and trying to understand on our, because like just like you said, no matter how we're trying to intellectualize, this issue, you will never be able to understand why somebody transgender goes through, and from that perspective, it is just like being a Black person. It is hard if you're white. You cannot explain how to be a Black person.
Yep.
So, but we are talking about somebody who's extremely smart. Is a master in the art of what he is doing, and I'm always at that distance that you have. Just take a deep breath and try to see what can we as a society take benefit from this particular moment. Let's play just a quick
Jenna, whom I've met, wonderful person. Look at it like this. Gender is a fact. You have to look at it from a woman's perspective.
Yeah, let's start because you mentioned that. Let's start from that.
Mm-hmm.
Gender is a factor, and you have to look at it from a woman perspective. Is that sounds a little bit offensive?
Well, I would also expand it that not only because in humanity we have men and women. Now you have people this generation which talks about gender fluidity. Some people who are on a spectrum and or people who are generally born males or generally born females who want to identify with the opposite sex. I don't know enough about this topic, but I do know that my generation, or my daughters, I should say, who are 21 and 27, that they're much more accepting. There's a whole kind of lexicon and terminology that, you know, the gender fluidity and I don't even cis and trans. I don't know all the stuff, but I do know that there's a whole world that is unfamiliar to me. I'm not saying I disrespect it. It's just unfamiliar to me. Just like I don't know, I can't
No,
remember.
that was a straightforward question.
But gender is. I believe that gender is a fact. You male
Yeah.
or female, right? There's two options in life, and people who are male sometimes they want to go through the surgical process and the hormones and the treatment and the counseling in order to become female. And so that that goes to what I think he's trying to say, that well, you can be born one gender and you can go through all the operational procedures in order to become another gender if for some reason you feel that you don't feel like you're the right gender. From what I'm intellectualizing it, I think there's some people who may be born male but they feel inside as a female. I've never had that feeling before.
I've seen some shows like on Dr. Phil. I've seen a black girl saying that she's completely black, darker than you or me.
Yeah.
And she said, "I'm white."
Yes, I remember that show.
Yeah.
I remember that one. Yeah.
She literally said, "I'm white. No matter what you say, I feel white and I'm white." You just have to see it that way. Some people, even included Dr. Phil, will call her delusional.
Yep.
And he was saying that she couldn't understand the social construct and everything that she was trying, as a psychologist, he was trying to explain why that was wrong for her to think that way. But to be honest, we live in a society where we more and more we have to be more aware of the fact that we have brothers and sisters that feel a certain way. Mm-hmm. You can see somebody, you can, on this show come and they probably come out and say, "Hey, listen, Malik, for all of this time I've been considering me as a man, but I'm actually a woman. I feel like I'm a woman." Yeah. And what this society is telling us today is that you should never question or even ask question about this is what we're heading, right? It's like anybody now, I can wake up in the morning and say, "Linda, don't call me a man, don't call me a woman. I'm just fluid," or whatever term you might use. Yeah. So when we say, for example, when Dev said, for example, that gender is a factor, and if we deny the fact that women should not be seen as seen some way, that means that one day women also can be revolting and say, "Hey, listen, we're gonna cancel everybody that take our gender for granted or even don't consider us." Because if we don't be careful to really say, "Okay, you know what, we heard you. You can never hurt another human being because of the way you feel. If you feel like a woman, so be it. So be it. That's how you feel." So should that discount the fact that some people, women, at one point will feel like, what is going on right here? You can take it there.
Yeah, and what I think too, and there might be some who might argue that there is a tsunami of anti-male sentiment.
Yes.
That because you have a man speaking about issues that involve men and women, you can also extrapolate it to the abortion issue. The abortion issue in Texas. One day you can have an abortion in Texas, the next day you can't because a federal appeals judge said, a federal judge put a stay, and then the appeals court said. So there seems to be a lot of confusion and chaos. And what I try to always do, Malik, is go to the source and find out what's the real issue here. I think right now that in lieu of the pandemic, and because of the pandemic, people's sensitivities are extremely high. And I think that people should have the right to express themselves. That's not to discount people whose lives are different, not in a negative way, but just different. Anyone can say anything, right? I could wake up and say, "I'm the next Pablo Picasso." I could be the next one to say, in this case, I'm going to become the next president of Equatorial Guinea. But until that happens, that for some people, it's a dream. And so whatever, I think this is the generation I think we live in. Whatever makes you happy, go for it. And
but the only difference right
happy
here is
because you're content.
claiming a gender is not a dream.
Well, yeah, gender is a reality. However, because of modern medicine, even modern, I think the way that things have been positioned and fashioned in terms of terminology, everyone is very sensitive. I oppose the immediate cancel culture. I think if someone apologizes, realizes, and I'm excluding comedians because comedians are there to make fun of society, point out the idiosyncrasies of life. And Dave Chapelle knows what he's doing. He's been doing this for a long time. He knows how to use the media. He knows this is a sensitive issue. And he does it in kind of a folksy, oh my gosh way. But this guy who knows what he's doing. So let's not also think that this was something that he probably didn't know was going to blow up. But anytime
No. You're fully aware. Dave is extremely smart. He knew exactly what's going to be a controversy.
And so everyone's talking about him. But meanwhile, and we're not talking about, we have the debt ceiling, right? So Dave's a great distraction. Dave's also making money. And Netflix, I bet you that there was a meeting before Dave Chapelle did his set where he and the Netflix folks said, hey, listen, here are the top possible scenarios that might come about as a result of you talking about this issue. So the people at Netflix probably had 3 or 4 public statements already made. So remember, this is all a well-oiled machine. And it's the public who seems as if they're the ones coming to the party. These guys know what they're doing. Malik, I promise you.
So are you saying Netflix should have a part of the responsibility to this? Instead of just putting, because you know what, Chapelle is under fire right now. Should that also be Netflix who's responsible to air, this special? Why are we not talking about Netflix? Why are we not canceling Netflix? Why Dave Chapelle is the only one under fire right now?
Yeah, and I think there's 3 reasons. I think number one, I think Netflix, as we know, it's the new thing, right? It's like Facebook. People want to cancel Facebook. People want to cancel Google. People want to cancel Amazon. It's become so big that you can't.
So is this double standard?
Of course, it's a double standard, but the reality is that what are you going to do? Netflix is making money. Netflix has this thing I think called Squid Games or something, or
Caitlin.
So we'll wait and see what happens. But Dave Chapelle.
Let me play this second portion
all the way to the bank.
Yeah. So he was talking about Caitlyn
Jenner, whom I've met, wonderful person. Caitlyn Jenner was voted Woman of the Year. Her first year as a woman. Ain't that?
What do you think?
It's funny because what he was trying to say by analogy is that the first time, let's just say if someone was nominated Best Actor in a dramatic series, and it's the first time that they were nominated and they won, it's almost like he's saying by analogy that here's someone who he's not acting to be a woman, he is a woman, but we all know Caitlyn Jenner in a previous life was Bruce Jenner.
Honestly, let bring it down for a minute. Do you think Caitlyn Jenner was rewarded because of the fact that she became a woman, or she always been a woman all of this time, but she was publicly a woman? She was rewarded as a woman, or she was rewarded mainly because of her courage to come out? What do you think?
Well, I know a lot. My coach, Russ Hodge, was an Olympic decathlete at the same time of Caitlyn Jenner. They were friends. I knew Caitlyn Jenner when I used to see when he was Bruce Jenner at the Gold's Gym in Venice Beach in California. And so I come at it from a perspective of knowing kind of what's going on behind the scenes with regard to why Caitlyn decided to do what she did, how much she may have been compensated for doing it, how it impacted the Kardashian family and that whole brand. And so there are a lot of levels. All this comes down to money. But in this case, I also think it comes to peace of mind. I know of people who said they knew that Caitlyn Jenner, back then Bruce Jenner, that he was kind of like a ladies' man back in the day. And who knows, it could have been a way of trying to shield his or her inner feelings. But I'm glad that at the age of whatever, 60 or 65, that she finally found peace of mind and strength to live her authentic self, which seems to be the terminology, her authentic self. I have a friend who went to high school with me whose daughter transitioned to become a boy. And this person is now, I think, has getting her breasts removed. And so it's a very, I hope that people, when they're talking about this, also realize that it's a learning curve for parents from our generation. And I'm open to anyone doing what they can that doesn't harm themselves and to seek happiness. That's all.
So yeah, back in then, it was a ladies' man. Now is a men, ladies, whatever the case might be. My question is, do you think for somebody who's always doubtful about societal issues like Dave Chapelle, who observe a lot and who make some analysis that usually when in public make us think as well, things that we never, that really make me, when I heard that joke, I was thinking, gee, he is right. What was the criteria that this woman become the woman of the year?
Yeah.
And I guess, these people, women all across the universe that have been doing some serious stuff, like, like dangerous stuff. We have in all what you call all subject matter, social or science, whatever. So they chose her to become the woman of her. What was did they really tell us why? Or that's what I was suspecting, the fact that this may be the fact that she was courageous enough to go through that transformation.
So having lived in LA for 17 years, I had a daughter who continues to be in the entertainment industry, and as an Olympic athlete who's exposed to sponsorships. Breaking news in show business is the business of show and tell, smoke and mirrors. In the end, you have real people, but there are people when you want to get a message out, when you have an agenda, and the agenda doesn't have to be nefarious, but if you have an agenda that you want people who are trans to feel safe, that they can come out, what better than a former male Olympic decathlete gold medalist whose family was the Kardashians, who then transitioned into Caitlyn Jenner? What better spokesperson for that niche in society that can say, hey, listen, if this person can do it, so be it. They're probably also saying, hey, listen, for 100 years, they had women who were, born women who won Women of the Year. So just like Barack Obama.
But do you think at this point, some women in silence, some women that we didn't know probably were also mad, upset? Is that possible that when she became a Woman of the Year, some women were eventually upset as well to know that?
Yeah, I think men and women, of course, that's just human nature. Jealousy. Come on, Malik, you and I both are the subject of virulent jealousy and people who don't know the stories or who try to pick up things from our past, mistakes that maybe we've made in the past. But that's the thing about maturity and grow. And as long as you're not continuing to make the same mistakes over and over again, expecting a different result, that is not acting insane, I think you're okay. Dave Chapelle is a comedian. Dave Chapelle knows how to manipulate the media. Netflix is a powerful multi-billion-dollar entity that knows what it's doing to generate more, not only for Dave Chapelle, but for all of Netflix things. There's a thing called the Squid thing. I think so even though we're focusing on Dave Chappelle, Netflix, the brand, is making money. So the next thing you have
absolutely. I mean, the show business is
they're willing to ride this wave because they know at some point, Malik, this cycle is going to work out and it's going to cycle out into something new. So they're riding this wave, they're counting the money, and Dave Chappelle probably is going to end up inking a bigger deal for Netflix down the road. Everyone makes money while the public sits around talking about, the nuances of trans, cis, and all the other terms that I'm not quite familiar with, but I'm eager to learn in order to not offend anyone.
Yeah. She's better than all of you. And they've canceled people that are more powerful than me. We canceled J.K. Rowling. My God, J.K. Rowling wrote all the Harry Potter books by herself. She sold so many books, the Bible worries about her. And they canceled it because she said in an interview, and this is not exactly what she said, but effectually, she said gender was a fact. And then the trans community got mad as shit. They started calling her a TERF. I didn't even know what the was. But I know that trans people make up words to win arguments.
See? So that was a segment.
Yeah.
A segment that a lot of people didn't go good with some community.
Between you and me, he doesn't care, Malik. I'll be honest. These guys are thick-skinned, and he knows that. And let's just say if there's legislation that's passed as a result of this to protect the trans community, that's a good thing, right?
Yep.
So we can't forecast a future. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do know that the way that the media works is that issues are discussed, people are offended, and hopefully members of Congress and the Senate and local, state, and national lawmakers can say, hey, listen, this is what we learned from the Dave Chapelle show. I'm not sure if that's the case. Maybe I'm Don Quixote chasing windmills, but in this case, I hope that something good will come out for everyone. In this case, Dave Chapelle, the trans community, and society at large.
But you know what? At one point, he was saying, that he was not against that community. He was just jealous. Jealous the fact that when they have issues, the agenda goes very quickly. Mm-hmm. They're able to have some support, but it looks like some community tend to have more respect. More, it's like people care about more. He was using the example of some rapper killing a black person, and nobody cares. But when you go and say something about the transgender or the gay community, usually people quick to cancel you. Do you think he has a point?
I think too. I think there are these cliques in society, Malik. You have the MSNBC clique, the CNN clique, the Fox News clique, the BBC clique, the Newsmax clique, and that everyone has like these tribes. So we can think of it in terms of our African roots, tribes, and that none of these tribes really want to commingle. And so I think that people should be more expansive. I think that there are some groups that are very sensitive and shouldn't be so sensitive. I think that whether or not you're with MSNBC, that you should be able to feel comfortable going to Fox News and CNN and speaking your truth. These guys make it sound, they're so territorial, these booking agents. Oh, I don't want to put this person on Fox News. I mean, what's the worst thing they can ask you? A hard question? Come on, something that you believe in? And so I'm not someone, and I'm willing to go on CNN, MSNBC, Fox, Voice of America, NPR, but most importantly, my loyalty is with GAN-TV. So if they have to go through GAN-TV first in order to get me.
There we go. That's the man talking. Listen, my friend, you and me, we don't have we have no dog in this conversation. We're gonna bring somebody who actually does have some interest in all those community to tell us how because we've been seeing one side of the equation where people are very upset, but within the same community, especially the black community, there was some different kind of reaction to it. Let's listen to this lady when she was talking about this issue on Don Lemon show.
That you're not blaming Dave. Dave gave her an opportunity that the community talked about the transgender community, and some of the things were painful to hear, but funny because as a comedian, that is our safe place. That is where we are the safest on stage, where we should feel like we should be able to say anything. Nina Simone said it best. How can you be an artist and not speak about the times? He says it in socially inappropriate ways that people say is not politically correct, but it's teachable moments. And there was no lies told. Here's the hypocrisy for me, Don. And I love my community, LGBTQ plus IA, and I'm saying it correctly because I am still a comedian first, but I'm going to be respectful tonight to everyone involved because I have three dogs in this fight. The love of me as a comedian will always be in me, but I can hide that. The transgender person that I identify as will always be in me, but I can hide that. But the black person in me, I can never hide. I hate the fact that we keep skirting around. So here it is, the hypocrisy. Dave Chappelle gave his friend, his words, his friend who was white and transgender, who wanted to be a comedian, an opportunity to open for him. Dave Chappelle is one of the greatest to do it of our time right now. That was a huge opportunity for her. The LGBT community never reached out to give her any opportunity like that. But then they turned and said that he was transphobic, he was homophobic, all the backlash that he received from 2 or 3 episodes ago from specials. And she stood with her friend, the transgender woman, and stood against Dave to say, no, he's not like that. And the LGBTQIA plus community bashed this woman so bad that she jumped off a building and killed herself. Dave was not responsible for that. So who is? Because
Flame, we
here's
don't
the
know.
thing,
Flame, I have to say, we
Donovan.
don't know exactly why she killed herself. But anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
Her constitution and my constitution are very different. The backlash at me, I'm not going to do that. But here's the thing, who we blaming for that? You're not blaming Dave. Dave gave her an opportunity that the community did not give her.
Powerful.
Yeah.
That is I think that was a smack dunk, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so powerful. And this lady, you heard what she said. She had 3 dogs in this conversation, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and she understand as a comedian herself,
mm-hmm.
and a transgender, she does understand the double standard that we have in this country.
Yeah.
And I think this have to be the moment where people, courageous people, have to stand up and say, you know what? We should protect everybody in America.
Mm-hmm.
Because Dave Chappelle, it's just a matter of time we will forget why Dave Chappelle even addressed this issue in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
What is the man is trying to say is like, you know what? Everybody, this is a country where everyone should be protected.
Yep.
But when some community, it's easy to be killed without no rage
mm-hmm.
for century, for decades, for century, almost every day. And the moment you say something to another vulnerable community, because believe me, gays, lesbian, transgender, all of these people, it's our people. They're human beings.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why we should put them in packet. They should be human being with a different kind of experience they should have. You should choose whatever you want to be, choosing. In this country called America, everybody has to be free to choose or speak his mind.
Yep.
So when we come to a point where somebody's career has to be shut down just by bringing the issue to because he's a committee, that's his job.
Yeah.
He's an artist to bring the issue to our knowledge, so that we can be speaking about this issue a little bit more intellectually, to know exactly where is the problem.
Yeah. Well, I think sexuality is such a touchy subject. But just like when you had rock and roll, right? Elvis Presley, people were freaking out about, oh my God, blah, blah. And so by analogy, we have a new area that we're all trying, that some people are trying to learn. It'll take some time. Maybe 10, 15 years down the road, this will be something that will be much more open, might be taught more in schools. It's no different maybe than how you have these people in an uproar over critical race theory. There might be some people who have an uproar as when you're talking about the fluidity of sexuality taught in school. So my thing is, once again, everyone take a deep breath. Life will be fine. The trans community is trying to just basically say, hey, listen, we matter.
And they do.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah. And it's important for us to remember that we all matter, and that people say Black Lives Matter. It doesn't mean that the white lives don't matter. We all matter, and we're all made up of matter, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and all that stuff. So I am someone who embraces everyone. I know my shortcomings. I'm willing to learn. I really disdain people, especially the elderly folks, who say, oh, I'm set in my ways, as if there's nothing else in life that they can learn from their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, that the things that they may have learned in the 40s and 50s is that's going to be their own perspective. Well, I said, well, go ahead and do it, and I hope that you enjoy doing your math on your abacus.
Listen, this is America, and the reason why we here, you and me, we're here talking the way we talk, because we know that this is the only place almost on this globe where you can come and say something and not worry that there will be a second knock at your door. And if that kind of freedom, and when I say something, I mean respectfully to others, you know.
Yeah.
We should feel like, you know what, this is a place where we are capable debating ideas. Okay, you say that, why you say, why did you say such a thing? But when you see somebody like David Chapelle who actually cares, they literally were talking about him giving his friend who happened to be a transgender an opportunity, golden opportunity, when his own community was actually the one pushing her to death.
Yeah, and,
Of course, that Don Lemon corrected her to say that we don't know yet, but
yeah.
actually she was dead by suicide, and
you think, I think the generosity of spirit of most people is genuine when you find out about it through others. You don't need to. So all these philanthropists who give billions of dollars, it's great that they do that, but I think, and it gets out because of, for whatever reasons. And I'm sure these people who are the receivers of these monies are very appreciative. But I'm going to tell you another quick story. When our family was stateless in 1970, when my father resigned as diplomat, Equatorial Guinea's ambassador to the UN, we had the option of going back to Equatorial Guinea or staying here in the States. Family back home was trying to get us to come back. They're saying, or not come back. My dad wanted to go back because he knew that's where his country is. The president, Macias Nguema, was a friend of him who had appointed, but Macias had lost his mind, lost his way, and was killing people. We stayed here, and if it wasn't for the United States of America, and particularly the state of Oregon, we would have been killed, Malik. We would have gone back to our country, and you wouldn't be talking to a guy looking like Mr. Wakanda Light today. And so I think it's very important for people to realize, for those of us who are immigrants, and I'm a proud immigrant who has benefited from living in the United States of America, notwithstanding the anti-immigrant vein perpetrated by the Trump administration and hopefully addressed by the Biden administration, no one on earth can ever have me reject the United States of America for saving the life of Gustavo and Bell and his family.
No one
can say anything.
What's that? That's a solid point, and I think with my take from you, what you just said is that because this place is wonderful in terms of the idea of freedom, the idea of free speech, the idea that everybody can make it to America, and when you hear you safer than any other place on earth. We love this place because of all of this good stuff.
And even our problems. We have problems too, right?
Yeah, but let me finish. But because we understand that, we're the very first people we have to be the very first one to defend those. Because if you're born here, you don't know any other place, you take this place for granted. But we understand, because we can compare these countries from where we came from. Mm-hmm. So I think it should be even more, to us to defend and to remind people what do we have here, So I think in the light of what I just said, if I truly understood what you were trying to say, I think this conversation has its value here, that we have this conversation and give our opinion, because being an American is actually, being able to participate. You got to be participate in this kind of conversation in a public conversation like the one we're having right now.
Think about this, Malik. If I was educated here in the United States of America, my daughters were born in Los Angeles, 2 daughters. I love this country so much, and the opportunity that it afforded to me, that the values that I learned here, I want to somehow finesse back in my country. Now remember, American democracy is not the same as African democracy. but I treasure my experience. So here, with all of our problems of racism, xenophobia, all the problems on earth that happen, I value my life here so much that the things that I learned here, I want to say, hey, listen, when I was in America, this is how they did things. It may not work here in Africa, but we can always massage and work things.
So once you become a president, what will be the kind of law? Because I don't know how the gays and lesbian and transgender or being
everyone will be welcome. We'll have one big party.
So what's the situation right now? What's the situation?
In Equatorial Guinea right now, transgender gay people are not given their freedoms. They're ostracized. They're arrested. In some cases, they are killed. It's unfortunate, and I oppose the current regime's anti-trans, anti-gay policies. As a heterosexual male, I feel completely comfortable with my sexuality, and I support the sexuality of people with whom they choose to love. And as President of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea, and hear me clearly, I will be all inclusive. I will ask people from in our transitional government and in our government to bring your skill set. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. What are you going to do in the boardroom to help us move our country forward after 53 years of terrible dictatorship? We need every ounce of intellectual capacity, and I welcome each and every person, trans, straight, gay, from wherever. Come on back, because as you know, help is on the way.
Always on the way. So what will be, as a president, what kind of advice will you give to some of your allies, like people in Saudi Arabia, that really don't tolerate this kind of things?
I think that the people who practice various religions that are thousands of years old need to come back into the 21st century. And for these guys, women wearing their full robe and women not being able to drive, that's crazy. We are in the 21st century, and I think the push and pull you see, the fight that's going on is you have the clash of ideas, and sometimes people with the bigger guns and the more guns and the weapons, they can win. But in the end, democracy, truth, freedom of expression, freedom of existence, I think rules the day. And I support anyone and everyone around the world, activists, democracy advocates, trans activists. We all have a common interest and common values, and that's to take on the status quo, because sometimes the status quo doesn't know what the hell it's talking about. Absolutely.
Listen, we want to conclude this program tonight by saying that we do understand as a human being, we all deserve life, the right to life, to freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. And those are the values that make America the beacon, that shining city on a hill. I do believe that the way we can cherish those kind of values is the ability for us to have conversation, being able to be sensitive to listen to each party, and maybe by listening to each other, one another, I think we will gain more. Maybe there's a lot of stuff we missed, because you cannot be an expert, on somebody else's race or somebody's gender, but we can listen to each other, understand why, when you use some, words that other people feel offensive, understand that, it's normal for them to feel that way based on maybe a history of violence, or, the case of Black people maybe attached to slavery, in case of Jewish people attached to a Holocaust, to our brother and sister, the gay community, attached to the violence that they're always, that they always a victim of. So by being more sensitive and by being courageous enough to talk without being, if somebody don't understand, I think it's good to invite that person and make it clear that we are speaking from the place of love, as always.
Yeah. And in conclusion, Malik, I don't know of very many people in the history of humanity who have ever gotten in trouble for listening.
That's right. That's why I sit with you together. That help
is on the way.
Always on the way.
Listen to our voices. We are at GAN-TV. We are doing great things in Africa, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, and we look forward to the transition in Equatorial Guinea happening soon. And we ask that the government step down in the name of democracy, freedom, and liberty. We'll see you soon on the shores of Malabo.
Absolutely. We're going to stop right there and, look forward to watch this show again probably tomorrow with my friend Gustavo Mbella. That was our take on the controversy, about the show, the special that Dave Chapelle did on Netflix.
The Federation for Democracy and Justice supports the trans community around the world.
Absolutely. Okay, guys. Listen, thank you for watching, friend. Thank you for your comments and your insight. We look forward to speak again. For now, goodbye.
Goodbye.